Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Team Cheeky special. Today, we're going to continue the theme of informational interviews. So I'm happy to have on with us today Asia Davis and Yaping Moshe. Did I pronounce that anywhere correctly, Yaping? Maybe not.
Mosher?
Mosher. There you go.
You tried to make it sound French, I think.
Yeah, I tried to give a little spice to it, but it didn't really work.
I love it.
So this month, talking about informational interviews, and we started off the series of videos talking about what exactly an informational interview is and why it's important. And then we talked a bit about last week about how to set one up. So I want to continue with that and really focus in now on the execution of the informational interview. But to start, let's talk a bit about the goal and do a bit of a review. So maybe, Asia, you can walk us through what's the goal of an informational interview? Why is it important?
Sure. I'm happy to do that. And I wanted to say hi to Ananya, who just said hello. Thanks for joining us live. And I know some of you others are too. So here's the thing with informational interviews. I think it's extremely important that you guys get comfortable doing them. Why? Because the information that you can find out from an informational interview can help you determine what your career goals are going to be and what kinds of companies to go to and what kinds of jobs to go into. So the objective of the informational interview is to get information that you can use to make a decision about the career that you want and the type of role that you want, the type of company you want to work for, the type of manager you want to work for, et cetera. This is the objective is not to get a referral. Going into an informational interview with that kind of agenda in mind is not the right approach because you're not going to ask the types of questions that you should be asking on an informational interview. So I want you guys to think about this as an opportunity to learn, which you all do really well, right? Your PhDs, you know how to learn. This is just another tool to learn about yourself and to learn about the opportunities that are out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were actually talking offline a few moments ago about what the common sticking points are for PhDs. And we know that it's all about finding that position that's right for you and knowing if it's right for you. And informational interviews are really the key to this because you get such amazing insight from industry professionals. And that's why it's also important to do a lot of them because everyone will have different opinions. And everyone will be working at a different company. And, a research scientist role in Gentech is going to be different than a research scientist role in Novartis just because of the company culture and the people that you'll be working with. So it's really important to keep that in mind.
Yep.
So that's perfect. Let's talk a bit about the questions. So when you approach an informational interview, Yaping, what are the types of questions that you think about asking?
So if the goal is to try to get to know the role, you can ask about, what's your day-to-day look like, or even how do you start your research and how do you know this is what you want? Obviously, we also want to know if that's what we want. So so that this is a pretty good icebreaker or to get the other party to start to talk about how they learn about the role and how do they know they will be the right fit. Yeah. Yeah. And then of course,
I'm sorry, Yaping, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I love this, what's your day-to-day look like? Because a lot of you won't necessarily have a view of what it feels like to do a job in industry. So asking those types of questions are really great. And everybody wants to talk about their job, right? And what they do and what the challenges they have that are in front of them. So this is a really great way to open up the conversation.
Yeah, and I wish I had learned about that term before I get into graduate school. I mean, so yeah, you don't want to get in and then realize that's really not what you want and end up have to change the job some other time. And at that time, you may have a lot of other obligations that don't allow you to. And you think about you cannot work there at least 8 to 9 hours every day, working on something you hate. That just not healthy at all. So information interview is the best way to know if you like it or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. So really digging in on the day-to-day of the role would be the first thing. And I also like how you mentioned to reference it in terms of always focusing on them. So even though we want to know if it's a good fit for us, we're always going to talk about why did you choose this job? Why do you like your job? What's the best part of your day? And then you can glean a lot of information from that. Asia, anything else in terms of the key questions that you would ask?
Yeah, I always love to ask people how they got to where they are, and is there anything different that they wish they would have done to get there, that would have helped them get there faster. Because frankly speaking, then you should evaluate whether that's something you need to be doing now to prepare to get into that role faster as well. And again, it's another opportunity for them to share advice. People love sharing advice, right? And it's also giving you something of value of how you can get into that particular position as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this also brings up a good point about who to talk to during informational interviews. So if you talk about someone who just recently stepped into the role, someone who's in the same kind of position or level that you want to be stepping into, they'll be able to share a story that's probably much more applicable to you, and they'll have a lot of advice because they've just gone through the process, and they're probably much more willing to share that advice as well because they've been in your shoes, they've known the struggles of trying to get that first industry job. So I think that's really important too. One question that I think not many people ask, but I find really important, is at the end of the informational interview, ask if they have other people that they would recommend you speak to, right? Because we talked at the top of the video that you just don't want one person's opinion. And now you've made this inroad and you're speaking to this industry professional. Why not ask if there's any other introductions that they would feel comfortable making so you can learn more about other people on their team or in other departments in their company? And I think you'll find that people will be really warm and receptive to introducing you to other people if you really hit it off during the informational interview.
I could not agree with that more. So I want you guys thinking about every single person that you have an opportunity to talk to. What, how does that expand your networking sphere overall, right? And you should not be afraid to ask, who else do you think I should be talking to? I'm really interested in this particular topic that you discussed. Is there another person that you're connected with that can speak to me more about that? And I think you should always be prepared to ask that question at the end. Like, you don't want this conversation to be one and done. You want it to expand beyond that.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to get to get into the other person's network, but also make sure you have the right networking adequate before you do that, because it's like asking go to someone else's house and asking to take a tour at their bedroom, right? So they are letting you into their best asset. So make sure you do ask that, but you also have to gauge the other person's response and make sure it's okay, it's appropriate to ask. But otherwise, it's a perfect way to get expand your network.
Yep, that's great advice.
I think it's brilliant. And I think along those lines, I think a great way to end would be, what's the maybe worst question to ask during an informational interview? What's something that you've heard from people that you've spoken to, or maybe you've been in an informational interview and it's been asked and you've kind of cringed?
Yeah, Ping, do you want to start? I bet we probably have the same answer. But
see, back from my culture, everyone will ask, how much did you make on the position? And for me, that is really a bad question to be asked or having to answer. So don't do that. and say, even if you do care about how much it made, just don't be so blunt. Ask something like, how do you enjoy your life now? Are you able to support your family, on the position, something like that. It'll be a little subtle.
yeah, asking people's salary is a big no-no, I think, just about anywhere. And frankly, you can do a lot of research on your own to find out some of that information anyway. And it's too early to be asking that kind of stuff. And I certainly wouldn't ask an individual for that information. The thing I still cringe about quite a bit is even after an informational interview and I've built rapport, I still don't want to be asked at that moment to refer someone to a job. You basically just told me that the only reason why you were talking to me was to use me for a job, and you still got to work for it, right? You still need to work to build my trust in that situation and make sure, because again, and actually to Yaping's earlier point, it is my reputation on the line to refer somebody into a role. And so I still need to fill you out beyond that 15 to 20 minute conversation. So you still have to work to get my trust to do that kind of thing. So, just from an etiquette standpoint, one conversation is typically not going to be enough for me unless you have been referred to me by somebody else that I really, really trust. That takes you up 5 notches. And that's why I want you guys asking to talk to other people, right? So that does already build a bit more instant credibility.
Absolutely. And there was a question, wouldn't the person feel offended if you think he's not enough to give you the required information and you need other people's opinions?
No. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. No, because people expect that you're going to be talking to a lot of people to figure out what you want to do with your life, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say that most people are going to realize that their one particular situation and the one particular way they got into a job is not a one size fits all approach. So I don't think most people are going to feel offended at all. And frankly speaking, if somebody felt offended by that, I'm not sure that was the best informational interview that you're going to get anyway. So you definitely want to talk to other people.
Yeah, I think part of it is learning the etiquette of networking. This is all part of networking. It happens in industry all the time. People are used to being asked for introductions to other people and connecting people with each other. This is all part of it. So I think one thing a lot of PhDs have to learn is this etiquette, and that this is all part of it. And it'll just make you a stronger job candidate. And not only a stronger job candidate, but once you get into the role, it'll make you a stronger employee.
Yeah, agreed. That's great.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Yaping and Asia, for joining us today. And if you have any other questions, please do ask us in the comments below, and we'll be sure to get to them.
Thank you. And thank you, Ananya, for your questions. Your first question was a really good one.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.